Hello, thanks for being in a new video. This time I have a full review of the Galaxy Buds 3. Let's get started. These are the new Samsung headphones that have completely changed the trend that Samsung had so far. Its launch price in Mexico has been 2,799 pesos. On the screen, you see the reference price in dollars just to get an idea. But remember that the prices here are not the same as over there. I say that these headphones have changed the trend that Samsung had because they are headphones in an open format. So far, Samsung only had a proposal of headphones in an open format, and we could say that it was a kind of semi-open format because they were the Galaxy Buds Live, which were very original at the time. For some reason, Samsung did not continue to bring out new generations of that category that I personally had liked. So now it gambled because the base model of the Galaxy Buds has been opened up and the Pro model has been closed with more isolation. However, even though they are open format headphones that could more easily let through all the noise and all the environment, they also have noise cancellation, so it is interesting. But what do you think if we start describing little by little these headphones so you can get to know them? To start, let's talk about the case that comes with a completely different design to what Samsung had us used to. Now betting on a case very similar in proportions to the AirPods, although with a transparency at the top that can get to give a touch of some originality. In this case, I have the silver edition, but they are also available in white. And in addition to the LED that we have here on the outside to know their current status, an interesting addition is the revinculation button that is at the bottom, which in previous generations of Samsung was not available. So now it is much easier to connect them to new devices. Down here we will also find the USB-C port to charge the headphones, but this case also has wireless charging. So even though it is not a Pro model, overall it has very good features, although there will be some differences that I will tell you about in a moment. For now, you should see that the case could be opened relatively easily with one hand and that the magnetic absorption is good enough to prevent the headphones from accidentally falling out of the case. However, now let's talk about the earbuds, and in this regard they have the same slippery design that we found on the Pro model. So while they might not accidentally fall out because they slip out of the case, when you are trying to take the earbuds out yourself, they are likely to end up slipping out of your hand as they have a very thin design in this part. We could even say with a very sharp tip, which complicates the grip a bit. So they are quite slippery. I didn't like that very much. Hopefully they will improve it the next generation. And just like the Pro model, it has on this side the colored badges so you can easily distinguish the left earbud and the right earbud with this same indicator mark on the bottom of the earbuds. And just like the Pro model, it can be a bit more complex to store the headphones in the case, since its design of very right angles complicates a bit the fact of inserting these headphones. You have to insert them in the specific direction because otherwise it is very complicated to get them in and they also end up falling out of the case. That point personally I didn't like very much. Now let's talk specifically about the design of the headphones. I already mentioned that they have an open design without any cushion, so they do not have isolation, and with this you can feel a little more freedom. When you are walking around, you will not generate any bouncing sound or anything like that, so it can be attractive to a good group of users. In this case, the headphones have a weight of 4.7 grams each, and as you notice, they also incorporate a small sensor to detect when you take off or put on the headphones, and depending on that, pause or resume your music, although that's a feature you can enable or disable through the app. These headphones have IP57 level of resistance against water and dust, so even if they are dropped in the water, they will survive with good quality. This is a feature that we could highlight as a strong point in this price range. And although they have a very similar design to the Galaxy Buds Pro, in this case, it does not incorporate the blade lights, so it does not have that distinctive light that anyway is not so useful in the Pro model, but it is another of the differences. Remember that this tube has a very straight design, so I do consider it to be a very original design. I didn't like it much in terms of ergonomics, but it doesn't look like an AirPods even though it has gone for this tube design that Apple also incorporates in its own earbuds. And by the way, if you happen to misplace these headphones, fortunately you can make them ring through their app or even try to locate them on a map with the SmartThings Find app. Let me now tell you all about the controls of these headphones, because for starters, you should know that it has a touch surface on the bottom that will recognize pinches, so that will be the way to control them. With a pinch on these headphones, we are going to be able to pause or resume our content, so it is very easy to control it. In this case, unlike past generations of Samsung headphones that didn't incorporate this tube design, it will be much more complicated to have unwanted touches, because when we didn't have this tube, possibly when you were putting the headphone in, you were going to have some touches, but in this case, as I say, it will be much more difficult. So this pinch would also serve you to answer a call in case you have an incoming call, or end the call when you are on any of these calls. By pinching twice, you can go to the next song. By pinching 3 times, you can go to the previous song. And it must be said that these 3 gestures cannot be customized through the application, nor is there any distinction between left earphone or right earphone. You are also going to be able to control the volume of these headphones by sliding on the back of the tube up or down, so it's a gesture you do generally with your thumb. I find it very responsive and very comfortable, much more comfortable than what we saw in the last generation, where you had to do some tapping and it was an experimental feature to be able to control the volume. So switching to this tube format has really benefited it by giving you more possibilities in the controls. Where I would like Samsung to also give users more possibilities would be to customize the controls of 1, 2, or 3 touches, differentiating left and right, but all that comes preset and cannot be modified. The only thing that can be modified, and there is a difference between the gesture of the left earphone and the gesture of the right earphone, is the gesture of holding the pinch for a few seconds. By default comes the noise control, so you can have the ambient mode or you can disable noise cancellation depending on what you prefer as a user, but you could also configure any of these headphones so that when you make this gesture you can access Bixby, for example, and you can have this voice assistant quickly accessible from your ear. You could also directly activate the interpreter mode that works in conjunction with the cell phone that we'll talk about a little bit later, or you could also activate a kind of white noise called mindfulness that connects with Samsung Health to give you some ambient sounds and help you relax or sleep. Finally, it would also help you get into Spotify directly, or if you have an incoming call, you can reject that call with this gesture. Interestingly, it will also support voice controls, but this is only for English and Korean, so it is not available if you have your phone configured in Spanish, and I think it is not so comfortable anyway to be pronouncing things by voice, although I do see that it could become useful if you come with your hands busy and suddenly want to do something with your hearing aids. We will have to wait a little bit more to see if they enable the availability in more languages. Let's talk about the sound. I think this will be the section where you will notice the biggest difference between the base version and the Pro version. In this case, we find a single 11mm driver, and also by changing to an open format, the lower isolation will produce that the bass frequencies are not perceived so much. In fact, I think the sound is not really that good. I would see these headphones for people who are not so demanding in terms of music, but simply want to listen to music to pass the time, but do not want to hear every detail of the songs, but by the same open design also want to stay a little more aware of what is happening outside. But at times you can also concentrate a little more, because if they have noise cancellation and somehow reduces the noise without completely disconnecting you from the outside. So I think it's an interesting proposition. They are not the only open headphones with noise cancellation, but they are not that common. Also, if you have a Galaxy through the app, you can also activate the head sound, which are a bit more advanced functions. Personally, I don't usually use these things on headphones, but it is available only if you have a Galaxy. Whether you use it on a Galaxy or install it on a cell phone of another brand, you can also access an equalizer where you can choose different sound presets. I must tell you that if you are in a very noisy environment, it can generally overemphasize the mid-low frequencies, resulting in a sound that I don't know how to describe it, perhaps as stiff. I did not really like the sound of the headphones, but as I say, fortunately in the equalizer options, you can choose if you want a balanced sound, if you want to optimize bass or treble, if you want the settings soft, dynamic, clear, or customized specifically with a 9-band equalizer how the sound will be. Through the application also has an option to customize the audio according to how you hear in your ears. Then you can run a small test that can also help you. And if you have a high-end Galaxy, you can also enjoy a very high-resolution audio if you want to activate that option. With this, it can give you 24-bit audio at 96 kHz ultra-high resolution, but to enjoy all these capabilities, you also require that the audio you are listening to is ultra-high resolution, so please use streaming platforms that give you this option in case you want to enjoy it. It supports SBC, AAC, SSC, and SSC UHQ codecs, but these last two codecs are only available on Galaxy devices, so if you don't have a Galaxy device, you are not going to be able to enjoy the audio with the highest definition possible, and both in these headphones and in the Pro model, we are also going to find an ambient sound option in calls, so you don't feel so closed in, but you can also hear your own voice when you are talking. That can help in some scenarios, and you can turn it on or off through the application. Let's now talk about the microphones, because just like the Pro models, we find 6 microphones in total, 3 in each headset. In this case, if you use the voice recorder on your Galaxy device, you will notice that it does not apply noise cancellation, but for calls it does apply noise cancellation, which is of very good quality, so they hear your voice. Well, then on the recorder you can enjoy the quality as if it were a wireless microphone, which is positive, while on calls it will do its job trying to reduce the noise. Then let's do some testing. First, let's listen to an example.
Ahora estás escuchando el audio grabado con los Galaxy Buds3, que en este escenario de grabadora de voz deberían todavía conservar parte del ruido ambiental para que sean lo más fieles posibles a la realidad.
Next, we are going to test how it behaves during a call.
Hola, ¿qué tal? ¿Me escuchas bien?
Hola, ¿qué tal? Te escucho muy bien.
Voy a activar el sonido ambiental para hacer la prueba.
Ok, está bien.
Ok, ya activé el sonido ambiental y quiero saber si me sigues escuchando bien.
Te sigo escuchando bien. Tu audio ahora suena un poquito comprimido, pero tu voz sigue muy clara.
Ok, muchas gracias. Este fue el resultado.
Definitely that the microphones have good quality, and this is another of the advantages of having this new design of the Galaxy Buds 3. The advantages of having this new tube design, that the microphone will be on the outside, much more directed towards your mouth. Unlike the last generation, even these headphones can have them placed, and if you record video with your Galaxy, you can activate in the settings that you want to record audio from a Galaxy Buds using the microphones of the headphones, so you have a much more immersive experience still, and not just a stereo recording. Let's talk about the battery. Remember that through the application we will be able to give you a quick look at the battery percentage of both the headphones and the case, and generally in headphones without wires we will not find bad experiences in battery. Surely in some cases you will have to charge them every day, in others every less time. It all depends on your use, but generally you will not expect them to be completely discharged. So the battery experience is usually good in almost all manufacturers. Samsung promises 6 hours of playback with noise cancellation turned off. Less time, it all depends on your usage, but generally you are not going to wait for them to discharge completely. So the battery experience is usually good in almost all manufacturers. Samsung promises 6 hours of playback with noise cancellation off, and considering the case, you could increase this figure up to 30 hours of playback. Now with the noise cancellation turned on, the time is reduced to 5 hours individually, or 24 hours considering the case, but it is still a very positive thing, so I insist that in battery, the truth, at least in my type of user, I don't usually find something to complain about. Let's talk about connectivity. Since these headphones incorporate Microsoft Swift Pair, and this is a very good thing, because if you are going to link them to a Windows computer, I just dropped the headphone. Let me go get it. It will be enough to open the case, and immediately the Windows computer will show you this alert or this notification to connect with speed. Then you don't need to go to the settings and wait for the list to be updated and all this complex process. If you have a Galaxy, the headphones will also be detected immediately without you having to do anything else. Detected immediately without you having to do a complex configuration process. And if you have another Android or an iPhone, they can also connect. But in that sense, if you would have to go step by step to link them like any other Bluetooth product, talking about that, they support Bluetooth 5.4, so they have very good range and very good stability. And in more advanced features, we are going to get the ability to be connected to 2 devices at the same time, but only if they are Galaxy devices. So it's not that advanced in that section. Well, and finally, let's talk about the latency that we could get to find in these headphones because they integrate a game mode, although Samsung has never been distinguished for having an ultra-low latency. So let's test both in a high-end device and in a low-end device. As you can see, the latency time is practically the same in the high end as in the entry range, which I think speaks ill of Samsung could further optimize this response time in the high end. Although the low end is not bad, but still remains a noticeable delay. So to play still not going to give you this same feeling that you could give a wired headphones. And finally, let's talk about Galaxy AI, which is something that Samsung promotes a lot in their latest products. In this case, Samsung claims to use artificial intelligence to adapt the equalizer or noise cancellation, also depending on each ear. And this kind of more intelligent details that perhaps do not seem so attractive to user level and also brings the interpreter function, but in this case you depend on your smartphone, so it is not that the headphones by themselves have the ability to translate and this kind of details if you need your Galaxy cell phone to have the interpreter application, so that is generally available in the latest high-end devices. However, this works as follows: when you open the interpreter application, the phone will be smart enough to know when to send the audio to your hearing aids and when to make the audio play through the speaker. So the audio that you speak, the phone translates it so that it plays in the speaker, and the other person can hear it, and the audio that the other person says, the phone translates it and sends it directly to your hearing aids, and the other person can hear it, and the audio that the other person says, the phone translates it and sends it directly to your hearing aids. Translates it and sends it directly to your hearing aids so it can be useful. Remember that this works even without spending mobile data because it does not need internet connection, so it is one of the advantages of Galaxy. And let me give you a test of a translation that I did with the Galaxy Buds 3 Pro, but it works exactly the same with these hearing aids.
Where can I find the restroom?
¿Dónde puedo encontrar el baño?
El baño se encuentra al fondo a la derecha.
The bathroom is on the back right.
Oh, thank you.
Eso o gracias.
Con gusto.
I'm glad.
And ready with this, we have reached the end of this video. Let me know what you think, because personally I think it is a good proposal to have these open headphones, but I have tried open format headphones that sound better than these. I do not think the sound is more spectacular than we have seen. For now, we reached the end of this video. If you liked, you can indicate it, and we'll see you next time.